Welcome to Podkey NBA, where today it's cap drama, pressure seasons, and a few spicy win totals. The NBA somehow has everything going at once right now. There's an investigation that won't end, contenders doing tax math like their lives depend on it, and a bunch of stars heading into seasons that feel way bigger than the calendar says. The strangest story in the league is still the Clippers' investigation around Kawhi Leonard, Daktronics, and whether money was routed through a third party in a way that dodged salary cap rules. What makes it feel so odd is the detail that Daktronics reportedly had basically no celebrity endorser history for around 6 decades. So this wasn't some normal brand partnership that happened to land on Kawhi. If the league decides this was really Clippers or ownership money moving through another channel, the menu of punishments gets serious fast. Heavy fines, lost draft picks, penalties for Steve Ballmer, and even contract-related limits involving Kawhi. The other problem is time. This thing has been dragging since last September, and with appeals or arbitration, it could hang around into 2027, which is brutal for everyone tied to it, including Leonard and other players connected to the case. At this point, there's real fatigue around it. A long investigation can be necessary, sure, but if it just becomes a permanent background spectacle, that's bad for the league too. A lot of individual seasons feel pretty make or break. Chet Holmgren is near the top of that list after a rough 2026 playoff run that raised real questions about his offense. The next season now gets framed almost like a fork in the road: bounce back hard or let doubt settle in. Jalen Duren has a different version of the same pressure. He was strong in the regular season, faded in the playoffs, and now Detroit has to figure out whether he's a long-term centerpiece or a player whose contract expectations are getting ahead of the production. LaMelo Ball has to prove health and playoff readiness after the Minnesota move. Walker Kessler has to justify a very expensive Lakers bet. De'Aaron Fox needs to make a big contract feel worth it after a down finals. And Donovan Mitchell is still chasing the postseason run that changes how his career is talked about. Then there's the younger group like Reed Shepherd, Paolo Banchero, and Emmanuel Quickley, where it's less about legacy and more about whether this season confirms upward trajectory or turns them into roster debates. A lot of these team decisions come back to the same thing. The second apron is squeezing the life out of the old draft and develop dream. Once those rookie-scale guys get expensive, even really good homegrown cores can become hard to keep together. And contenders are acting like their title windows are 2 years long because, in some cases, they kind of are. One proposed fix is giving teams a cap discount for players. They develop themselves, something like $6 million per player, because right now the system almost nudges teams toward trading useful guys away before the bill arrives. That pressure also matters for 2027, which on paper could have 9 or 10 teams with real cap space. The catch is a lot of those teams are not obvious glamour destinations, so the existence of cap room doesn't automatically mean a free agent bonanza. Golden State is the most interesting example. If Stephen Curry doesn't extend and a bunch of veteran money comes off the books, the Warriors could theoretically get near $100 million in space. If he signs a 2-year extension in the 130 to 136 range, that flexibility mostly disappears. Nikola Jokic has a version of that choice too. Waiting until 2027 could set up a 5-year max around $360 million, which is a massive difference from signing earlier. And the whole 2027 market is shaky anyway, because possible headliners like Giannis, Kawhi, Kat, AD, Butler, Kyrie, and others could just extend before they ever hit the open market. The Warriors are basically betting on continuity after a 37-win season, with 10 of their 12 top-minute guys returning. You can call that faith in the core, but it also looks a little like there weren't many better options. Either way, it puts a lot back on Curry, especially after he played only 43 games last season. Oklahoma City has a different problem. The Thunder look like a champion-level team that's already acting as if the second apron is a hard cap, and by moving out players like Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe, and Aaron Wiggins, they saved an enormous amount of money while also getting thinner. That's the tension now. Even the best teams are making decisions that feel less about maximizing basketball and more about surviving the economics. On the betting side, a few early overs stand out. Miami over 44.5, Memphis over 29.5, Houston over 46.5, and Cleveland over 47.5. Miami is the fascinating one because Giannis with Bam Adebayo gives you a terrifying defensive foundation, but the spacing questions are real and not small. They don't have that easy Brook Lopez-style release valve, and they lost depth too. So the Heat can look like a top East threat in one conversation and a clunky, stressful fit in the next. Both reactions make sense, and a lot of it comes down to Giannis being available enough for the whole thing to matter. The underplays getting attention are Milwaukee under 26.5, the Knicks under 52.5, and Golden State under 39.5, with the usual warning label that one injury or one surprise leap can make all of us look silly by January. Indiana's whole outlook turns on Tyrese Haliburton's Achilles recovery. His scoring matters, obviously, but it's really his processing speed and playmaking brain that set the Pacers' identity. Replacing Miles Turner with Ivica Zubac changes that identity too. Less spacing, more size, more screening, more interior presence. If Haliburton looks like himself and Zubac hits that borderline All-NBA level again, the ceiling is still high. That also overlaps with the first-time All-Star conversation, which is always a mix of talent, role, and visibility. Historically, you get around 6 new All-Stars a year, and starting on a good team still matters a ton. The names getting the most juice include Cooper Flagg, Amen Thompson, Brandon Miller, Austin Reeves, OG Anunoby, Franz Wagner, and a rookie swing on Cameron Boozer. Good players miss out all the time if the context isn't right. So this is one of those debates that's fun now and obvious only later. Victor Wembanyama still sits at the center of a lot of league thinking because he's basically validating the most hyped version of himself 3 years in. Aside from the blood clot scare, he looks exactly like the franchise-altering prospect people promised. That carries over into stuff beyond the court too, including the idea that he might be one of the rare giant players who can really move signature shoes, because his visual identity and global profile are strong enough to break the usual rules. And when people redo the 2023 draft, Wemby is still a no-drama number 1. Amen, and Ausar Thompson stay high because of their two-way value, and Brandon Miller looks fully justified as a top pick. One useful lesson from those redrafts is how much the league values dependable role players. Toumani Camara jumping into the top 10 says a lot. So does the rise of Derek Lively, Jaime Jaquez Jr., and others who help real basketball happen, not just theoretical upside basketball. Out west, the Northwest Division looks loaded enough that 2 good teams could miss the playoffs entirely. Oklahoma City, Denver, Minnesota, Portland, and Utah all have real top 10 in the conference paths, which is kind of ridiculous. Utah especially gets a lot of credit for turning the Walker Kessler move into a pile of future assets and staying patient around a longer build. And zooming out, the league calendar keeps expanding. Christmas scheduling arguments never go away. NBA Europe is being targeted for a late 2027 launch with serious money behind it. And even the WNBA keeps claiming more off-season attention because the actual basketball is good, and people are finally acting like they've noticed. That's the catch-up for today on Podkey NBA. The league is doing what it always does this time of year, giving us contract math, existential roster questions, and just enough chaos to stay busy. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm. Podkey.